The views and opinions expressed within the following program are solely those of the individual. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of Shaw TV.
Hey Calgary, I'm Kevin Chorney. It's November 28th, and this is Calgary Now. All right, so for years, North American schools have awarded students based on academic achievement and athletic abilities. In most schools, students end up being categorized as math and science nerds, debate team champions, or jocks. And if you didn't fall into any of those categories, hopefully you got by as an average student. While your high school grades determined your ability to obtain the post-secondary education of your choice, those awards, certificates, and trophies are more than likely tucked away in a box in your parents' basement. But now some schools are doing away with awards, saying they hurt the self-esteem of those who don't win. Critics of this decision claim the recognition motivates students to succeed, and academic success leads to career success later in life. Researchers and educators counter that success is different for every student, and it's time we rethink how schools should encourage students to be lifelong learners. Which way is best for students? According to the Program for International Student Assessment developed by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, our education system is doing a fine job. Canadian students continue to be leaders in reading, math, and science, scoring in the top 10 in all three areas out of some 70 countries. Our post-secondary institutions are recognized as some of the finest in the world, and Canada continues to innovate through its development of cutting-edge technologies. However, as of late, a fundamentally different style of learning has been gaining momentum. Recently, a teacher in Edmonton was reprimanded for violating what was at the time the Edmonton Public School Board's no-zero policy by handing out a 0 grade for a missed assignment. Closer to home, the Calgary school has done away with academic and athletic awards. So for all the seemingly triumphant successes of our education system, why are some of us trying to fix what it would seem is not broken? I'm sitting down with guests in just a moment here. Get at us on Twitter at Calgary Now Show and give us your 2 cents. To get the ball rolling, let's check out the rant back.
Eradicating levels and marking and honor system and all that kind of stuff with kids is not a very good idea. Kids are naturally competitive, and there's nothing wrong with competition. Competition is what teaches people to excel, gives them a reason to excel. It teaches them how to negotiate and collaborate and work in teams and win gracefully. And in the real world, when those kids grow up and get out of school, that's what they're going to do. They're going to negotiate and collaborate and work in teams, and they're going to have to be able to work in that team and excel and do that gracefully.
Hey Calgary, thanks for joining us tonight. Tonight we have registered psychologist Brent McDonald, local parent Karen Patterson, and Joe Bauer, public school teacher and author, joining us via Skype, which is a Calgary Now first, so you'll have to wish us luck with that. Guys, thanks very much for being here tonight.
Pleasure.
We'll start with you, Doctor. Tell us briefly a little bit about yourself, if you would.
Well, I'm a private practitioner here in Calgary, registered psychologist, and my field of practice is primarily with youth, so children, adolescents, young adults who have different kinds of learning issues, so problems with learning to read, write, do math, focus in class, pay attention.
Focus in class. You must be a busy guy then.
I can't even keep track. I'm so unfocused on it. But there's a large part of the population I work with that have behavioral challenges as well. So I guess the kids I work with are the kids who struggle for the most part.
Well, thanks for being here.
Pleasure.
Karen.
Hi, I'm a mother of one, and I spent the last 15 years in mainland China. And so my daughter's first couple years of education was from a Chinese education point of view. And also I'm working in Calgary as a destination service consultant. So I help people from around the world when they move to Calgary with big companies find housing and schooling for their children. So
well, you as well are fairly busy, I'm sure.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're booming, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Joe, tell us about yourself, if you would.
Sure. So I'm from Red Deer, and I've taught public school for 14 years. First 10 years I spent teaching in a middle school, mostly grade 8 science and language arts. And currently in the last 4 years, actually, I've been teaching in a more special education atmosphere. I'm teaching in a local hospital in a children's inpatient psychiatric assessment unit.
Very good. Thanks for being here.
you.
So guys, let's get to it. I alluded to in the intro, our education system seemingly is doing fairly well. Globally, we're recognized as some of the leaders in the world. So why is it that we need to perhaps tweak or fix a system that maybe isn't even broken to begin with?
Well, I think there's a lot of different possible factors here. One of the things we have to talk about, when we're talking about the decision made by St. Basil's and some of these other schools about recognizing awards, is we tend to be recognizing the ones who are doing the best in the first place, right? So, we have a system that works for those kids. Yeah. And I think if we delve deeper into the stats that you cited earlier in the intro, I think, yes, we're doing a good job overall, but we have those outliers on either end, the gifted kids and the kids who struggle. Yeah. And maybe we're not doing such a great job in those areas. So if you're your average, sort of middle of the normal curve kid, we are probably doing a pretty good job and maybe don't need to fix a lot. Sure. But I think looking at the academic awards in particular, I think we have to be really a lot more thoughtful about what we're doing and more importantly, why we're doing it.
Yeah, I would say that similar to what Dr. McDonald said is there's the kids that would work towards that and they need to be rewarded. So if you take that away, I think that's a disservice for the kids who are naturally competitive or like that. I think maybe one of the problems is that the people the outliers on the side are not being dealt with or programs to work with what they're interested in. And so maybe part of it falls on the responsibility of the parent, the teacher, or maybe the guidance counselor, depending on the kind of school, to maybe encourage them or to help work with them to find something that they can excel at, which isn't maybe athletics, academics, or debate club or something like that.
Well, I probably agree with you. I think a lot of people probably would. How does eliminating an honor roll system or even potential awards help with that at all, Joe, in your opinion? Is that a good solution?
I think that rethinking our honor rolls and our award systems is really necessary because we end up only recognizing usually maybe less than a third of the school's population. Public education has a mandate to educate all children to a very high level. And I think that's more true today than maybe it's ever been true. I think there was a time when we found it acceptable for dropout rates to be higher because we would say things like school isn't for everyone. But you don't hear that anymore.
No, it's not true.
We know that education is incredibly important. Even for children who have complex special needs, we're saying that they need to be educated and educated well. But we can't. We got to stop pretending that we can provide all children with a great education by giving them all the same education. So the traditional award ceremonies and honor rolls are very narrow, have very narrow definitions of success and excellence. So when I talk about rethinking the honor roll and the award ceremony, I just want to broaden our definition of what success and excellence looks like. I think it's awfully narrow to say that the only children we'll recognize are the ones who get over 80% in math, social studies, science, and language arts. What about the arts? What about physical education? And in the end, my biggest bone of contention with honor rolls and award ceremonies is that it makes success artificially scarce. And so I just want to see us broaden the definition and let's recognize all children for their strengths and their abilities.
But what about those kids that strive on that recognition? Those kids that need to be on the honor roll in order for them to build their self-esteem, their sense of well-being. Are we not maybe pushing them out of the honor roll?
I've taught some of the children that you might be speaking of, and unfortunately what happens is some of these children come to define their well-being and their self-worth by what other people tell them. We have to remember that when we assess children or even evaluate them, what we're trying to do is set them up so that one day they can assess themselves and be semi-autonomous or fully autonomous learners. And too often I've seen kids cry or when they get 99% and not 100. The point isn't that 99% should be good enough. My bone of contention with the whole idea of the grades is that it's not that too many kids or that not enough kids are getting high grades or A's or not enough kids are getting on the honor roll. My problem is that too many children have been convinced that the point of school is to collect grades and get certificates. My understanding is the point of school should be to learn, which is very different.
I see you nodding your head,
Well,
Doctor.
I think I want to take off on one of Joe's points here,
Yeah,
which
please.
is the academic awards that are most frequently given in schools are based around 4 core academic areas: reading, or well, language arts in general, math, science, and social studies.
Right.